there is a pandemic in our time of self-loathing. It is incredibly common, and I would argue, I haven't seen the statistics, but I would argue one of the most common issues facing the average person. Some kind of self-loathing. That self-loathing leads to a lot of things, including conditions like mine. People who suffer from gender dysphoria. I wanted to take a moment and reflect on where I think that comes from. It is very big. The self and the person is a very big deal in at least American society. People are very focused on what's good for themselves and what they want, and not generally in an overtly selfish way, that is to say, in a way that puts themselves ahead of others. But there's a major emphasis on one's own self and honestly a lot of the powers that a person has, like our free will. It is really important that we have our freedom to do as we please or to not be oppressed. It is very common that manifests manifests in ways, like I was saying with gender dysphoria, in wanting to change yourself. And I think a big part of that is because the more we pay attention to ourselves and the more we look inward, the more we're going to understand about ourselves and the more we're going to find, and the more flaws we're going to find. It is undeniable that every human is broken. And if every human is broken, that means if we're looking inwards at ourselves, we're going to find that brokenness. We're going to find something about ourselves that we don't like. I saw a thread on Reddit recently. Somebody was asking, what is the secret to happiness? What's the key to happiness? It's not an unheard of question. It's a rather common question. What can I do to be happy? There were a lot of comments of people talking about, oh, don't care what other people think. Or, do the thing, you've got to do the things that make you happy, do jobs that you like, things like that. And I had a rather different approach, I think, because I don't think those are the keys to happiness, or more so the keys to joy, which is distinct from happiness. Happiness is an emotion. It's delight. It's a good feeling. Joy is a sense of fulfillment, and it comes from, it's much deeper, and it comes from much more intrinsic and bigger things. In theology, it's not uncommon to hear that joy only comes from God himself, or from having a good relationship with God. And so I answered this question more in the realms of the key to joy, because I think that's really what the question is getting at, because people aren't looking for just happiness. They're looking for more than that. And so I was surprised to find so many comments of people talking about themselves, or the self in general, because they're saying, do the things you love, don't care what other people have to say about you, brush off the haters. I said you need to care less about yourself, because the key to happiness can't lie within yourself. Like I said at the beginning, the more you look at yourself and the more you pay attention to yourself, the more problems you're going to find. And that's okay. That's a good thing. I think it's a good thing to look within yourself to find the problems. But if you're looking inside yourself to find the key to happiness or the key to joy, that's where I think you're going to start to go wrong. Let me grab a prop. Some of you may know, who are watching this, that I do blacksmithing occasionally. This is one of the hammers that I use for that. It's a simple steel 4-pound hammer. In order to keep this hammer working well, I need to take care of it. I need to make sure the hammer head is taken care of. I need to make sure the handle, especially, It's taken care of because the handle's made out of wood. And something that's really important to do with this is that every so often I have to oil it. You usually use linseed oil. It soaks into the pores and keeps it hard and fresh and strong. Some really expensive hammers, this one's pretty cheap, you also want to take care of the hammer head itself to keep it from rusting. Usually you oil it just the same. How valuable, how useful is this hammer without something to hit? You know, if I didn't have a forge, if I didn't have any metal to hit, if I didn't have anything like that, I just had this hammer that I took care of, you know, I waxed it, I oiled it. Does this hammer have any use? Obviously not. I mean, I would have to do the things to take care of it still to make sure it stays fresh and usable, but there's no point in doing those things if there's nothing to use the hammer for. Another really common thing that people brought up on this thread on Reddit is taking care of your mental health, which is really important. Taking care of your physical health, which is really important. You know, you need to exercise. You need to do the things that are good for your mind and keep your brain in a healthy place. Those things are kind of pointless because they're just like the wax or the oil on the handle. They keep the thing itself, those keep the hammer in good condition. But that hammer doesn't have any use, doesn't matter how good of condition it's in, without a purpose. Now, I'm not going to say that having self-value or having a job that you really enjoy or anything like that is the key to happiness. And I'm not going to say that joy or happiness are exactly the same as having a purpose, at least in the way that this hammer has purpose. But the key is that without something to hit, that hammer is worthless. The amount of taking care of it doesn't matter. In that way, taking care of yourself, while it's really important, can't be that source and summit of happiness. Looking into yourself is really important to find the problems that we have so that we can work on them, so that we can be better humans, so that we can keep our handles oiled in good condition. I had a friend I was talking to recently who was explaining that one of the most powerful tactics the devil uses against us, Satan, the enemy, good old Captain Redlegs, is to keep us away from other people. He takes something relevant to ourselves and tells us not to let other people know about it, or not to share. What would they think of you if they knew? Or, in some cases, it could even be keeping us thinking about that thing ourselves. To separate one person from all of their support in everyone else, but also to separate a person from their own support. To tell them, here's something that's wrong with you. And that's wrong. Let it be wrong. Rrr. If you can get somebody to focus on that one wrong thing, then that can consume them to a point where they can't flourish in any other way. If I were to focus on this hammer, and a better example might even be if I bought a really expensive hammer, like imported Japanese Damascus hammer with a cherry wood handle or something, ridiculous, really nice, really expensive, that I would really love, and it'd be a really nice hammer. But if I only focus on the fact that it's super expensive and I don't want to break it, I'm going to polish it and keep it well oiled and in great condition, but I'm not going to use it. Because what if I break this really expensive hammer I bought? I would have the most valuable hammer with no point and no purpose. This gets into a realm of philosophy called teleology, and it's a big fancy word that it really just means what a thing is meant for. This hammer is meant to hit things with, and so it is most fulfilled in its purpose when I hit things with it. So if this were that really expensive, nice hammer that I was talking about, it wouldn't matter if I didn't use it. Because that hammer, in all its niceties, isn't meant to just be a nice hammer. It's meant to hit things with. So if I don't step outside of that one fact of it, that hammer will never be fulfilled. In much the same way, if we get too focused on something that's wrong with ourselves, or focused on ourselves in general, or anything like that, we're not going to get past into what we're meant for, our teleology, our purpose. The short, as far as what our purpose is, the short answer is it's to have a relationship with God. I'll get into that in another video at some point, because that's a whole big topic. But God and other people is, we're supposed to have relationships. That's what fulfills our humanness. That is what is the hammer hitting something of humanity. It's relationships. So there's a pandemic in our society today of being very self-interested. And like I said in the beginning, it's not necessarily in a selfish way. That is, it's not necessarily in a way that'll hurt other people. But it hurts ourselves. And that, by extension, hurts other people and hurts society. We're not meant to be that focused on ourselves. I mentioned, I talked about the beginning about how gender dysphoria is really common, and especially like that's something I deal with. That I can get really hooked up on that one thing I don't like, or, gender tends to be a bit, it feels like a really big thing that's intricate and all its little, it gets into all different aspects of life. But if that's what I focus on, I just get more and more uncomfortable, and I don't focus on anything else of what I'm supposed to be, of my teleology, of my purpose, of what's really going to fulfill my person and my being. Does that make me happy with my gender? No, because I still have dysphoria. That's not just going to go away. But if I just focus on that one thing that makes me unhappy, then of course that's all I'm going to notice. I'm just going to notice the thing that makes me unhappy. There's a lot more to who I am and to my relationships than my gender. To use another analogy, aside from the hammer, I think of artists, painters or people who sketch, do digital art, any kind of art like that. Who is the person who values their art the lowest? In my experience, it's the artist. The one who looks at it and sees, oh, that line isn't quite straight enough, or that color is slightly wrong, or here's something I did wrong here and that sticks out to me. The person who focuses on all the little details, trying to make the painting just right. But anybody else looks at that artist's painting or drawing or whatever it is, and they just see how wonderful it is, because they're not looking for those tiny little broken details. They're not looking for the ways the artist could have done better. We're the artist in our own lives, in our own person. We look into the details way too deep, and in doing so fail to see ourselves. We look at ourselves so closely that we fail to see ourselves. It's like those games that you're trying to guess what the thing is, but it's zoomed way super tiny in on one obscure little thing, and you can't tell what it is, and so they zoom out a little bit, and you can't tell what it is, so they zoom out a little bit more, and eventually they zoom out far enough that you go, oh, I see what it is. That's what we need to do with ourselves sometimes. We need to zoom out and keep zooming out and zoom out and zoom out until we can see ourselves in a bigger picture, the fuller picture. Not just the things that are wrong or the things that make us upset, the things we can grow in. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Crap, I suck at these outros. You know what? I'm just going to keep it quick and simple. I would love it if you guys gave this video a like and subscribe, and really please put in the comments any thoughts you have on what I had to say, your own story of struggles, anything like that. Please leave it in the comments so I can address them in later videos. My thoughts tend to get things wrong when I get stuck in my own head. So if you can help me think, that'd be great. Point out something I said wrong. Thank you.